Vintage Sportsman. Today we're going to see a seminar on deer hunting by Mr. Pete Fiduccia, aka the Deer Doctor. Enjoy this episode. I think you'll find it very interesting. Stay tuned.
That's it. That's all you need to know. Okay, so here's what I do. Besides telling myself that every time I go out, I'm going to be in the game, I'm going out to hunt, and I'm going out to hunt seriously. So I'm in the game. Beside that, I want to use proactive tactics. There's nothing wrong with sitting in a tree stand all day. Nothing wrong with that. But, see, at some point in time, remind me to 10 to 2. Okay? Right after I get around the rut. So, the big key factor is I'm already in the woods thinking positively. Secondly, I want to do proactive tactics, and that includes a lot of different things. We'll start with the deer calls. But instead of going through all of them, because we've got so much to go through today, I'm going to go to two that are the most, one is the most misunderstood and misused call, and one everybody thinks, wow, what would you do with that call? The first one is the snort. And the snort is probably the most useful call all season long. Anybody who is serious about deer calling or serious about hunting deer should own a snort. I swear this to you, there is no better call. And everybody thinks the only thing that happens when you blow a snort is the deer running away on you. That's not the truth. You're heading to your stand in the morning, it's still dark. You ever hear a buck or doe do this? Two snorts, but it's always a hesitation between them, right? Happened to anybody here? Okay, we got an honest crowd. What and most times what happens, everybody who hears that think, now what? What do I do now? How do I get to my stand without disturbing the whole? And that's the key. Lots of times you hear that sound and you think you're busted anyway, so you might as well keep going. And then the deer blows an alarm distress, not an alarm, but alarm distress snort, and that really upsets the woods. So to prevent that, you take the call and you blow back twice. I guarantee you, it's a guarantee that that deer, is buck or doe, is going to snort back at you. Then you snort, it snorts, and it'll continue to talk to you until it finally makes, smells, or sees you. But lots of times you can keep it going until it's light enough to see what's blowing at you. And there's a 50-50 shot, it's a buck. Okay? And here's a key factor in this. Bucks will snort louder every time than a doe. Every time. Their snort will be louder. So if it's a sharp blast twice, you know it's more likely a buck. More than likely. And so that's one way you can use this call. And it's a key way to having your morning or an afternoon ruined. A second way to use this call, how many of you guys have been in a stand, whether it's in the woods or hunting on the edge of a field, and had a bunch of deer, and it's getting, 4:15, 4:20, 4:30, it's getting cold, you want to get out, but you can't, there's a bunch of deer underneath you, right? You don't want to have them relate you to the stand. Anybody have that problem? Am I at the bass seminar? Right? So how do you get out of the stand? You blow the alarm distress. Several calls. You won't finish that call before every deer in the field is gone. But all they think is, see, if my deer are out there, I blow this way. I blow behind me. If they're behind me, I blow out toward the field or wherever. But you blow in an opposite direction, so they think it's a deer they're not seeing, but it's blowing. And danger's imminent. From when every deer is born, that doe teaches them that sound means imminent danger. You've got to go. This is not a time to look, smell, it's a time to go. So that's the way you use that call. You get out of the stand, deer never relate you to being there, and so the stand remains viable. Right? You can also use that alarm distress to spook deer from heavy cover. Let's say you're walking to your stand or you're still hunting. There's a bunch of blowdowns, so you're on a ledge looking down at laurels. Instead of picking up a rock, everybody ever do this, and heave it over the ledge, hoping, scare a buck out of there. Unless you hit the booger right in the head, all he does is tuck himself deeper into the laurels. But the alarm distress, he can't avoid. It's instinctive behavior. A lot of what I do gets deer doing things on an instinctive behavior level. Right? So you take that alarm distress, and I give something away at the end of the seminar. You gotta come downstairs to get it. I repeat a phrase over and over again. Get the phrase right, raise your hand, get it right. You win. Right. Whatever that is. So what I try to do is get them on an instinctive level. I'm watching a bunch of blowdowns. I'm watching a standing cornfield where, I'm at the corner. I'm looking over a ledge at laurels. I'm walking into a swamp where I think there might be some deer. Anywhere you think a buck might be hiding. I take out a scent called interdigital scent. Interdigital is a gland between the deer's toe. Every time a deer puts its hoof down, it's leaving minute amounts of interdigital scent. Every time it stomps its hoof, what does it do? It's leaving an audible message. Deer to hear, thump, thump, thump. It's leaving a chemical message, and it's leaving a visual message. If a deer sees another deer stomping, but he's out of range, but he sees that stomping motion, he knows there's trouble. So what I'll do is I'll take, and interdigital, by the way, is a very powerful scent. You take your knife, the next time you shoot a deer, put it between their toes, come out the tip, be covered in a waxy, white, or yellowish, gooey stuff. Don't take the gooey stuff and go, it'll ruin your day. It'll ruin your day. Smell it from down here. But so it's a very powerful scent. But when a deer's stomping like that, you want to test that scent now? Go on a known deer trail. Put several drops out. Watch the deer come down the trail. They hit it. They skid to a stop. The hair goes up on their neck. They get nervous. Their ears are, and they either go wide around it or go back till that scent dissipates. Because it means to them something's wrong. So if you use interdigital scent, you could use that how many guys, I bet I'm not going to this. At one point in time, I tried to chain these guys to follow me into a tree stand in Warwick. Every morning they'd hung around me. And so one morning I thought it was being really funny, and I put several drops of interdigital scent down, and another trail stopped the deer from going to their way and coming my way. They shot the buck as I was freezing freaking bottle. What the hell? Anyway, it's a great scent. You can use it to attract deer. You can use it to warn deer off from another trail that you might want them to go to. But when you're using it in this scenario, a couple of drops. When you're using it from a mock rub, a couple of drops. A mock scrape, a couple of drops, no more. And I know what you're going to do. He said a couple of drops. I bet you 75 will work. 2 drops. So I'll put it down. I'm watching the spot. I don't even care at this stage if my scent is blowing that direction. It creates the illusion. Because now the buck might be smelling me, and he's hunkering even tighter, and then he starts smelling the interdigital, then he hears me stomping, then he hears me making my alarm distress. He can't stand it. If he's behind that blowdown, or he's hiding in the laurels, or he's in the corn, he's coming out. It's a great call to use when you're with a bunch of friends. Set them up in a swamp around escape routes, or in a cornfield, and then somebody goes 20, 30 yards into the swamp or 20, 30 yards into the corn, settle things down for 15, 20 minutes, blow the alarm distress. If there's anything in there, it's coming out. So that's a great couple of ways you can use the snort call that I lost. The old snort we used to have had reeds in it, and you could make it sound like a kazoo sometimes when you blew it, instead of making it sound like a snort. There's no reeds in this anymore. And it's got a really good piece of road, so I changed it up. That's good. So the key with that is 2 different ways. Then there's a social snort. And a social snort is an excellent for bow hunters. You have a deer out of range, and that deer is walking by, and you want to stop him, or you want to try to get them to come to you, and this don't always happen. A social snort, sometimes really adult big bucks, will stop and look and watch 30 seconds or so, and they're content that, okay, another deer just said hello to me, and they move on. But not many times, but sometimes they come in to see what it was. Especially a buck, because he wants to know if another buck made that call. But it's very soft. I'm blowing 3. You blow 1 for a social snort. And that little sound can be heard in the woods 150 yards away. You don't want to do that. You want to keep it soft. That's an aggressive snort. Bucks make it before they start fighting with each other. When they're gonna, when 2 bucks are gonna clash, they'll make that big snort before they do that. They snort and then they go at it. So that's a good way to use that snort call if you're gonna rattle. So that is a call that nobody who is really a serious, dedicated deer hunter or a hunter who wants to be prepared for anything should be without. Before you buy a grunt call, and I have a grunt call to sell, don't buy the grunt, buy the snort. I promise you it'll work better for you all season long. The next call is the grunt, and that's the most misused and misunderstood call. Does anybody see my black bag? Oh, you turn 73, the whole thing put a pop. So, misused, misunderstood, right? How many guys have blown a grunt and had a buck come in right away? No? A couple of guys, okay. That it happens. You can blow a grunt, buck will, if you blow it in the right window of frame, the window of opportunity, that buck's coming. Most times, guys use it too early or too late. And they call, they text me, or they even email me, I blew that call last year and he came right in. This year I blew it and he ignored me, totally ignored me. Why he totally ignored you, I try to ask, and why I blew and I thought he didn't hear me, so I blew again and I blew loudly. How many people, now I need to know this, how many people have heard a buck grunt naturally in the woods? Okay, I probably won't be able to do this after talking all these 3 days. No, I can't. It's a very soft grunt, correct? Right, it's a little burp sound. That type of sound, right? It's not what how many guys have read and seen for sale the growl by 2 guys, who I'm not going to name, that are pretty good deer hunters. They are great deer hunters. They're pretty good deer hunters. And I know why everybody's watching Tiffany on television.
I don't know what you're talking about.
2 good reasons. Here's why you don't grunt loudly. It's not natural. Bottom line. You grunt loudly, you're going to be a lonely hunter. These grunt calls, this is mine, doesn't make it the best. It's a really good one, but doesn't make it the best calls. There are plenty of good grunt calls out there, and they're designed to be heard. You don't have to use a loud grunt call. It's not natural. It won't attract the buck as quickly during that window of opportunity. And when is the window of opportunity? It falls between the big chase and the actual, what they call the rut. The rut is, please get me right after I'm done with this call to the survey. Okay? The rut is a much longer period than we think it is, and I'll get into that in a second. Here's the key. What happens is this buck, it's been up around October 25th, say. Here comes a buck out of the swamp, and he's heading up to the apple orchard. He's a really happy camper. Things are changing. He's found all those little scrapes already. He's happy. He's walking up, and you see him. You go, oh, wow. I'm going to run. In a deer's world, you've just said to that buck, "Hey, you!" So the buck stops, or he turns his ear, or he starts to walk a little faster, but he doesn't come in. Watch the body language. This is what that buck is going to do. This is how you know you're screwed up. I've blown too loudly. He'll immediately drop his head, not this. It's a slight drop. His ears are going to fall forward. He's going to flag his tail not 3 times, not once, but twice. Bink, bink. Every message is, I heard you, Mr. Big Betty Buck. Please don't chase me. And so he starts to walk away. And then you didn't hear me. And oh crap, here he comes. And he starts to move a little faster. When you see the buck, if he does that, immediately burp at him. It's called a burp grunt. Three times, 2 times, it should stop him enough to check it out. He should think, oh, well, that sounds a little more natural. All right? And generally what he's going to do is make a big arc around your stand to see if he can get downwind or get downwind where he thinks it. But that's how you got to use your buck grunt. You got to use it naturally. There's 2 great scenarios. There's the burp grunt, and there's the one that's called the trail grunt. We've all seen the trail grunt. Buck goes to the ground. Here he comes. Grunt, 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 grunt. That's the burp grunt, not the trail grunt. He's burping all the while. Boop, 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 boop. The tending grunt, however, is a buck that's got his nose firmly planted in the rear end of a doe. And he's with that doe, and that's a hard buck to call in. So what you have to do is create the illusion. I see that buck, I immediately take my call, and I make a trail grunt. You hear the f on the end of that? Yeah. That's creating the illusion. It still works without doing the illusion, but it works better with the illusion. When a buck's blowing a trail grunt right against that doe, there's a little whiffing sound to it. So if you can make the whiffing sound, you just created the illusion better. Many times that buck will stop, he'll look, and if that buck, watch the body language again. If he turns in the air before he looks and then turns toward you, fully turns his head toward that sound, he is coming. He turned his ear to find out where it was. He's satisfied, and here's what he's going to do. He will not walk to you. He will not trot to you. He will speed right up to where he thinks he might see something, and he'll speed right back to that doe. So that's the time you have to release the arrow or shoot the bullet. Because it's going to happen quickly. Vroom, vroom. But when? And so those are just 2 ways you can use the grunt. But I can guarantee you that if the timing is wrong, the buck is going to hear the sound and keep moving. Some ignore it so casually, you don't even see the attitude in their body language, but they, okay, you're going. And they keep going. The rut. When you want to get the best effectiveness out of that call, is going to happen between, write it down, it's going to happen between November 5th to November 15th. That's your window of opportunity of calling in a grunt, of a buck that will respond. Because it's the big chase, especially from the 10th to the 15th. I don't care where you live. If you don't believe this portion of this seminar, you're going to hurt yourself. I promise you that. Go downstairs and check this out. I think in both books I got a really good chapter about the rut. But this one is a chart. The rut is the same from Maine, southern Maine, all the way across the country, right through Montana and over to the coast in a certain latitude. 40 to 45 degrees. We fall in the 40 to 45 degree latitude. Southern New York falls in 37. Just gave you that wrong. 45, it's 35 to 45, we fall 37 here. The key is to know this, that whether it's a warm rut or a cold rut, Mother Nature, perfect in design, she's going to have bucks breeding. Warm weather only means lethargic movement. Otherwise, they wouldn't be breeding down in Texas in January with 90-degree temperatures are in Florida. They have to breed. So what happens is, during that period, if it's a warmer rut, there's a lethargic rut. It's happening more in the evenings, at night. Otherwise, that diurnal, daytime activity in the colder rut, you see more action, so you think, oh, the rut's on this year, it wasn't last year. It is. New York State did a study. There's 2 biologists who were involved in that study. Their names are in the book. I can't remember their names ever. So come downstairs if you want their names. Google their name. You'll come up with the survey. New York did an 8-year study, and in that study, what time did it start? 11?
Yeah.
Okay. And in that study, these 2 biologists took 100 roadkill does, opened them up, took the fetus out, and measured it with a fetal gauge. Over the 8 years, the study came out with this. They had a slight blip on the chart in late September and early October. A very few does of those 100 fetuses were bred then. Then they had a noticeable blip on the chart that happened in, it was around Halloween. It was around Halloween to the 3rd. There was a blip. A majority of the does were bred between November 10th and November 27th. And then some more, another noticeable blip happened during the post-rut, which is there's always 3 breeding cycles. We have a pre-rut, we have the primary rut, we have the post-rut. What everybody forgets is there's 4. In between that is the big chase. Nobody's breeding, but everybody's chasing the women. Okay? And I'll give you more information in a second. So, where the heck was it? Oh, so in that December period, they had another blip. And every year, for 8 years, they had those that were bred in January, February, and they had 1 to 2 in 6 years that were bred in March. Those forms never made it. But has anybody ever seen bucks with March with antlers? Okay. My son sent me a picture yesterday. I know it's coming up. I'll pull it up on the phone. Out of his, I'll give it to you in a minute here. Out of his window across the street in the neighbor's yard, there was a beautiful 10-point buck. Antlers yesterday. So it happens. See, if a buck has antlers on his head, he is fully capable of breeding. If a doe hasn't been successfully bred, she will come into estrus every 28 to 32 days like clockwork until she's successfully bred. The only thing that makes her skip that cycle is if there's very severe weather, ice, deep snow, wind howling for days, whatever it might be. You didn't pay the MasterCard bill, she'll skip the cycle. That's just a nervous situation with a doe makes that happen. However, when you figure out that big chase factor in there, you figured out how to find out where all the other ruts fall into place, all the other 3 cycles of the rut fall into place. You're in the woods. It's mid-October. Haven't seen any sign. All of a sudden, what do you find in the woods out of nowhere? Next day, well, 2 days later.
A rub?
Rubs?
Yeah, rubs.
And
Scrapes.
And all the scrapes, how big? This round, right? Wife knows one.
Yeah, she gets more than me.
They're about this round, right, guys? And they're bare to the ground. They're bare. Leaves are gone, twigs are gone. What just happened? Mother Nature, perfect in her design, makes every mature doe in any given herd, and a mature doe means 4.5 years old, come into a very brief 36-hour estrus cycle. It's meant to kick off the rut. See, the rut doesn't happen because of cold weather. The 2 things that you can guarantee yourself is that cold weather doesn't kick off the rut, and neither does the freaking moon phase. That is the biggest farce going. Guys who have written about that for many years, which I won't name names, sell moon phase charts. There's in one of these 2 books is a chapter called Mother Nature Sets the Date to the Rut, not the beep, beep, beep moon phase. And I interviewed, I think it was 6 or 8 biologists in the country, no biologists. To the biologists, they have agreed and did agree that the moon phase has absolutely zero effect on setting off the rut. The rut is, I got you. The rut is set off by a gland in the corner of the deer's eye called the preorbital gland. As daylight declines, the testosterone begins to flow, and that sets off the rut. That's what happens. Make it quick.
Does it affect their activity though? If it's
Yes.
if they have the moonlight, they're feeding all night and maybe chasing all night.
Activity level? Yeah, I'll tell you what. Stay home the next time you think the activity is not working for you. Get out there. You don't know. You see,
If you're
that's a
picking a
great
weed.
question. In all seriousness, great question. But I got you right next. But here's what I say about that. You sit in your stand when the weather is foul. Don't go hunting. When the weather's foul, you better get your bunny out there because the bucks are going to be moving. But here's the deal. Whatever people tell you when don't be in the woods for, is a person who really doesn't hunt or doesn't know about hunting. Because you could be out there and Steve could be walking around scaring deer. Or you could be out there and a dog runs by or a coyote runs by and kicks a buck out of his bed. Or doe comes by and the buck gets up to check her. Anything can happen. So you're, and not you personally,
Yeah.
but anybody who stays home because the moon cycle is wrong, gave up all those possibilities. A day in the woods is a day in the woods. Right?
Agreed.
Okay, yes. 10 to 2. Thank you. So, one of the key factors, and I'll get back to the rut here in a second, I wanted to give you that. Every buck you see on my wall, every single one of them, and probably 80% of the bucks I've ever killed in my life, I killed between 10 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. I'll say that again because I know everybody's going to that's crazy. 10 to 2 is the best time you want to be out there to see some movement. Now I'm not talking about you're not going to get run over by deer, but deer move at 10 to 2. Especially on ground where it's being hunted heavily. State land, move from your original stand to another stand and take that between 10 and 2, and you're going to see deer. My wife, I'll give you a very quick story, of which I wrote in that book. I'm sitting in my stand 2 years ago, I see 8 bucks before 7:45. I shoot my buck, get on the cell phone, and my wife said, "Was that you who shot?" I said, "Yes, now get off your phone." So she said very, just a sarcastic look, said, "I know when to get off my phone." Anyway, she got off her phone. So I'm dressing the deer out, and she walks out of the woods, and she says, I thought I'd come out to see if you need help. I said, "Yeah, I do. Actually, if you hold the tube back like that." I said, "Why don't you take my stand now? Don't go all the way back there." "No, I'm going back to my stand. I saw deer all morning." I said, "Come on, go to my stand. I saw 8 bucks this morning." "I don't want to go to the stand. I want to go to my stand." She went to my stand in the end because I said, "Wait a minute, I can't fill out my license. I had the pen in my pocket. I can't fill out my license. I forgot my pen." She said, "Oh my God, my pen is in my pack and I just left it at the edge. She left it at the edge of the field." So she gets it, she comes back, and I said, "Now you wasted too much time going to my stand." She said, "Yes, I did." She went to the stand, she shot a 142. I'm dragging my buck down to our barn, and the shot happened. It wasn't 15 minutes after I left, I go downstairs and see the buck. It was 11 a.m. Bucks will move between that period. Okay, so now another tactic that I use, and trust that. Trust that. If wherever you're hunting, if you like your stand and you want to stay there, go ahead. But you know what? You stay in your stand all day long, you're going to get bored. It's natural. Your scent is going to permeate. You're going to nod off. Things happen. So you just still hunt to another stand, and you get there, and things are all fresh up again. You're hunting another stand, and the scent isn't being permeated after staying in the stand all day long. You had a quick question.
Oh, no, I was on the moon phase.
Never mind. I like these guys. Never mind. I'll just come later.
No, it's just so the moon phase is important if you're picking a week to go hunting somewhere you don't live, right? If you're saying, okay, should I pick the week where the full moon is happening, or the weekend before or after? You should pick the one before or after, right?
That's a good question.
That was
it depends on where you're going. If you're going to an outfitter, they're going to be moving around. So the moon phase really doesn't kick in there. If you're going to the Adirondacks, you might want to pick the second week. But if the second week happens to be a week that's outside of the big chase, you just blew it. Moon phase, big chase, I'm going with the big chase. And that's the dates I gave you. It is always going to happen. Don't believe me. Go downstairs, talk to Guy Montana or Wyoming. There's two of them down there. Say, I want to be at your place in the middle of the big chase. The middle of the rut, tell him. He might not even get the big chase. I want to go downstairs. I want to go down, sign up right now. Well, I want to be there during your rut. He said, I'll see you mid-November. That's what he's going to say. So he's in Wyoming, he's in Colorado, he's in wherever Whitetail's roam. Outside of that parallel, it changes. Way up north, it's different. Way down south, it's different. January is the big time of the rut in Texas. South Texas. Northern Texas, it's usually in early December. Because the light is different. It's all based on light. Nothing else. When the light declines, that's what sets off the rut. That's what tells the buck. The more it declines, the more he starts to get into the rut, and the does as well. Okay, so here's a couple of other things that work really well. If I run into trouble, I want to talk about rattling. Do you guys want to hear about mock scrapes and mock rubs right now, or rattling? Rattling?
Mock scrape.
Nobody. One guy. I'll talk about rattling after this thing. Here's what I do with mock rubs and mock scrapes. They're excellent decoys. There are other decoys. It's snowing out. You got a really deep snow. It's and deer season, and you want to have a really good decoy. Put about 6 or 8 of these in the snow. I use these because they just bloop, and I put. Guess what I put? Apple scent. Deer don't care what the freaking apple scent on here or the acorn scent. Here's what the deer see: the green thing. It's green. Me go to the green thing. That's all that happens. It's an excellent decoy. Don't call me if you use it in September. Everything. Use it when it snows. So there's plenty. Anybody see my program 2 years ago? It's on YouTube. I was up in Maine. She saw it. Shot a buck. I hung these from a pine tree. A pine tree. Put apple scent on him. The buck come down the trail. He was going over a log actually, and picked up his nose, walks right to the apple. He's looking at him, trying to bite that slipping out of his teeth. It's a great decoy. Pears, they like them even better. Don't buy the dull ones. Dull and the red dull apples, don't buy them. You want them to have that deer. Very visual. They're very visual animals. Big and shiny. Filled with apple scent or pear scent, whatever. But here's what the two that I really like is the mock rub and the mock scrape. Rubs are a pretty neat deal because they're signposts. A deer has a lot of glands. The metatarsal, the tarsal, the preorbital, he has an organ called the nasal organ. They put out 17 different scents at different places in rubs and scrapes. 17. They have just the interdigital has 46 volatile compounds. 46. Just that one glandular scent. So you see how much scent is going on? We can't duplicate that, but we can duplicate a little bit. Talk about scent for a second. Estrus scent. How many guys read that estrus scent? You know, put out 48 rags and put it on the boots, put it on drab rag. Use a lot of scent, right? Common sense. He's in the car with you, and he's got way too much going on. You're sitting out with her, and she's got way too much perfume on. Nobody goes, you smell nice. What the hell are you wearing? Whoa. Right? So you put out a lot of scent. The buck has no brain. He doesn't say, that's not. He does have instinctive behavior. gotta be careful. It comes in very cautiously, or it turns on and goes away. Use scent sparingly. I make love potion number 9. My son, who's now past his 2 master's degrees and his last year of his PhD, I gotta keep working. So I should tell you to buy as much as I can. You don't have to. Use scent sparingly, make it natural. Hang it on a wick. Don't put it on your boots. Don't put it near the tree stand. Keep it 30 yards away. Dip it, make sure it's squeezed out. You don't need it dripping, unless you're gonna use it over a scrape. But you don't need it dripping. Wet, sopping wet, overloaded with scent. He will, if it's the right wind and he's going by it in the right wind, he's gonna smell it and he's gonna move toward it.
I'll be the first one to tell you, and this is, God is my witness. I put love potion number 9 on a little piece of rag, tied it to my boot, walked across a mountain at least 500 yards. And I had a trail camera out. The deer walked and followed that drag rag, and it was hours later to show you how powerful a deer's nose is. Followed exactly, and I walked in circles.
They can do that. They
Amazing.
Can certainly do that. I'm not saying they don't, but I'll bet you didn't soak that.
No, I just put it, but just saying how powerful your scent is, just to know, just a rag just dragging on the leaves and just a little bit wet hours later. Amazing.
Or thanks, come downstairs. So, you got to use it naturally. Same thing with these scents when you're using interdigital or something like that, or tarsal, metatarsal. Tarsal's a great scent. Again, I find a natural rub, and a rub will tell you something else too. Let's say got the agriculture is behind me, or feeding, some kind of feeding is behind me. The deep woods up above. You come across a rub this way, you know that buck is coming from feeding to bedding. Go to that rub, turn around, walk about 30 yards backwards, and you'll probably see rubs on the other side of the tree. Those are his evening roots. So if he's going to set up a stand, don't set it up on the side where he's going, set it where he's coming, right? So that a rub tells you that, at least. It also can give you some indications about size, but don't believe that bull turd about a big buck only rubs big trees. Nothing is further from the truth. Sometimes I've got it on video. Somebody that video I gave somebody. You're going to see big rack bucks just rubbing and playing around with little saplings, and I've got a spike on that same video. Rubbing a tree that's that fat around. You're just rubbing his spikes on it. You don't know who's rubbing what. But you can have some indications if you come across a big rub or signpost rub where you got little indents in it. That's usually a buck with points, with a number of points on his head. Nice. You made it all the way down from 1L. And now you know why it works so.
Yes. There we go.
Yes. See what I mean? That's what you get a PhD for.
That's what college will do for you.
Turn on the lights. Nice to see you, son. Well, so where was I? Oh, the rub. So let's say you want to make a mock rub. Here's a key way of making the rub. Find a rub, go to another stand. I'm trying to stay still on the can for you, but with the camera. I'm sorry. Moving all over the place. You found the rub, right? And you should carry, when you're making the mock rub, carry a little measuring tape, and I'll tell you why in a moment. You find a mock rub, and the rub is about that long, let's say. It measures 17 inches. You take out the tape, you measure 17 inches. You take out an antler. I make my rubs all the time with a natural antler. All the time. I used to use a little saw. I don't any longer. I used I found out I tested it, and I had much more response when I use an antler. Even an old antler is better than a saw. Why? Because it's bone. It has a scent. And if you cut bone, if you cut an antler, you can smell that scent, right? No matter how old it is, you can smell that bone. Soak in the buck. So I find the tree I'm going to make. I rub it until I get my rub going, and then I make my rub larger or smaller than the one I measured at 17 inches. Smaller? Smart. Who is that smaller? Why? Because you want any buck coming in, that's exactly right, to be beatable. He comes in and sees a rub bigger than his. He's still going to go to it, but he's going to go to it very cautiously, or he might look at it from a distance. Go for a smaller rub, and even the biggest bucks come in for it. Big bucks don't really like to fight. They like body language. They'll just turn sideways and they'll make a U, and the ears go back and they put that tail between their legs. It's all body language. You want to mess with me? You see these? You want to mess with me? See, and that's the way it works. Young bucks, we all went to schoolyard fights, right? Young bucks don't care who they I'll kill you. That's what happens. So you get to that look. Every time a buck goes to a rub or a scrape, he will do the same exact instinctive behavior. That camera stand is the rub. The buck will stop, whether he rubbed it already and he's going to refresh it, or he's making a new rub. He sees the tree he wants, he stops, he puts his legs together, and he rubs them back and forth, back and forth, back. It's called rub urination. That whole bit is called rub urination. What he's doing is, he's rubbing his tarsal glands, and that tarsal scent is going down his leg, and it's going over the metatarsal gland, which is now mixing with the tarsal scent. And then he's dripping pee-pee on it. And now you've got urine, tarsal, and metatarsal. And then if you watch him, after he's done rubbing, he'll curl his back and squeeze. You watch his rumps, you see his muscles tighten up. He's depositing pupusal scent from his penis on top of that. And now he starts to walk toward the tree. All that before he does anything. He walks toward the tree and he's ding, ding, ding. He's dripping. Pick up the toilet seat. He's a male. He's dripping, 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 dripping. He gets there. The first thing he's going to do, he's going to sniff the rub, whether it's made or he's making it. Sniff, 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 sniff. Then he's going to lick. Lick, lick, lick. What he's doing at that point is putting down scent from one of the most important organs in his body. It's called the vermilionasal organ. And that vermilionasal organ, paying attention? Okay, check. Is on the roof of his mouth. Here's what it tells him. All he has to do is lip curl, and he knows that Steve is in the peak of his rut. How tough he is, how by his urine, how it stinks, how his metatarsal and his tarsal smell. He knows it's Steve. He knows it's Peter. He knows it's Eric. He knows it's who? Andrew. He knows that. He also knows Betty Lou. And she's there too. Alice. Close. Carol. Away he goes. He knows. It's in the urine. It's in the other sense that the does have. So that gland is an important gland. So what he does, he's licking. Peter's here. If that's not enough, now I'm going to rub this tree. And you got my antler scent, and you got my preorbital. And my forehead. 17 different odors he will deposit on a tree that he's rubbed and or a scrape that he's making. 17. You can't duplicate it. The ones you need to duplicate are the straight buck urine, not the big buck urine, not the most powerful buck in the way, just straight buck urine. Okay, and then if you get a tarsal scent, not the mix, tarsal and buck urine, tarsal scent by itself, buck urine by itself. Put several drops down before you go to the rub. Drop, 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 drop. Get to the rub. A little tarsal scent. 2 drops of interdigital. You can put the metatarsal, they sell that. You can put preorbital, they sell that. A drop of those things. The preorbital goes right on the rub you made. Everything else is on the ground. Okay. Then set up 30, 40 yards away. Don't hunt it the same day you made the rub. You measured your rub. The original one was 17 inches. You made yours 15 inches. You hunted it for 2 or 3 days. You hunted it every other day because you're a smart, savvy hunter. You didn't go to it every day, and nothing happened. Nothing showed up. You tried different times. You went in the morning one time, you went in the afternoon another time, you went 10 to 2 one time. Nothing showed up. It's time to get out of the tree and measure your rub. If your rub is still 15 inches, it didn't work there. You gotta find another rub. If your rub is 19 inches, you missed him. Get a camera, find out when he's coming through. Okay? If your rub is larger, he's interested. They cannot instinctively ignore it. They can't. It's in their genes. It's what they are. They see a new rub, they must find out who made it. It's natural. So it's a great decoy. Now, the better one yet, mock scrape. And then ran through all the time. Mock scrape, same thing. You want to make a mock scrape? There's 3 scrapes that we all know of, right? You found that early scrape in October. Oh, when you find that early scrape in October and it's bare to the ground, what happens to it in a couple of days?
Fills up with leaves.
Right, fills up with leaves. Exactly right. But when it's bare to the ground, you've hit the gold mine. It's worthless to hunt over. But know what it's told you? 28 to 32 days away is going to be the peak rub. And 28 to 32 days after that, you count them when you find that bare ground, it's going to be the post rub. And in between all that, you got the big chase. All right? So when you find a rub, that first rub, that's called a false rub, because it really, all that is, a bunch of bucks starting to make rubs because it's the first extra scent that they get from that period when all those mature does are making a 36-hour extra scent. So they dig a rub here, they dig a rub, a scrape here and a scrape there, and they're hoping that she visits one of them, you know? So worthless to hunt them. The second one is called the secondary scrape. Usually, I don't know, you and I put our hands together, they would be about that big. And we've seen those. They're all over the woods. They're in, lots of times they're along fence rows and stuff like that, right? And then there's the scrape you want to find. And it's called the primary scrape. And it's that big at its minimum. They're going to be bigger than that sometimes. That's a primary scrape. You find that, stop, back out, do nothing. You found gold mine. That buck is within 100 yards of that scrape when checking it. Tiptoe out, go back in the afternoon when that buck should be up and cruising, and build your mock rub 30 yards from it. Make it as big as that. Put all the scent I told you in. Make sure you don't overuse the scent. Snap a branch for that overhanging branch. That's what he uses his Romeo nasal on. You can't put any scent on that. You don't have it. So all I do is snap it so it's a visual. Ooh, there's that overhanging thing I rub my thing on. So it's there. What? Create the illusion. Right? Then put all the scent in. Then back out. Then hunt it the next day. If there's a buck in that area, he will visit that scrape. The more buck urine you use, the more apt he is to come in. Don't grunt at him. I'll tell you, that's an overstatement. Don't try to attract him with a grunt. The best thing you can do to attract that buck after sitting in his hand for an hour or so, nothing's happening, is make a soft estrus bleed. Estrus bleed. How many guys use this can? How many use it consistently, successfully? You know why? Because the package says, do this. That's an alarm blast. Don't want to blat an alarm? So you make one, here come the deer. Ooh, work. Ooh, I love this can. And then you do it again and nothing happens. What happened? Oh, there must not be any deer out. You're making an alarm blast. This is a great way to stop deer. Deer's running by, I don't care how fast that deer is moving, make an alarm blast. What the heck, where's the problem? Well, especially bucks. Oh, wait a minute, I don't want to head to where that is, you know, the way I go. But there's an estrus blat. I call it the starter blat. I'm not patting myself on the back. Yes, I am. Yes, you are, Peter. No, I'm not. Everybody now who makes these calls are starting to use the starter blat, I can't remember the other two, the stuff. Now they finally got the right. Now they're using it, and that's a good thing. This is the starter blat. A doe and he. She does a lot of different things. God, we're gonna run out of time. She takes a tail, and she'll flick it once, and she'll flick it twice. And she's flicking as a visual sign to a buck who's upwind of her. Guess what? I'm ready right now. And then she's letting out her scent, and he smells that if he's downwind of her. He sees the tail, he smells the scent. And then it's called flagging. So what the point is that does will do things to get bucks to see, what's the word? An attracting type behavior. So this call is added to that. When a doe wants attention of a male, she whines. You're making your grunt call, and he's ignoring you, and it's during the big chase, go like this. And put it down. Because most times he's going to stop and trot right in. Might not come all the way in, but he's going to show attention to it. He starts to walk out. Where you going, buddy? I'm ready. He comes closer. It's a great call when you know how to use it. And it works best during the rut. Like the grunt, it has a window of opportunity. And it's between those 2 weeks, quiet girl. Between those 2 weeks, the chase and the primary rut. Where was it with the scrape? So now you built your scrape, you're sitting in it, you're not going to be calling to it. That buck knows you're there. Whether he wants to come in and check it is the whole key. If at the end of 2 or 3 days nothing happens and you're hunting at those different time frames, give up on the scrape. He may not even be there anymore. And the way to check that is if you go into the scrape and
Come on, you got it.
a tarsal. Oh,
Happens to all of us.
I swear that next year I would say, what are we all doing in this room? And just take, next deer you kill, take a hoof off. And, you know, it'll get stinky after a while, so you gotta skin it and clean it up. But take the hoof and make an indent in the scrape. That's a buck who sees that, it's just, and my whole key here, put some extra scent in there. A few drops, don't overload that thing, that's the key. A few drops of estrus, put the print in there. Now you've created a visual attracting, natural attracting element to the whole scrape. So if he is checking it at night, now he may come out in the daytime too. Everything I talked about tonight and much, much more is in one of these 2 books. Both of them are on sale. And if you trust anything I told you, do not leave this show without a snorkel. It is the key juice.